I'm going to approach it the way I critique a piece of work, because to me this is artwork,
Mm-hmm.
just in a different medium.
Yeah.
So I'm going to critique it in that sense to my best ability.
Okay. Well, I did my rating system a little different as far as the approach. It's still like a 1 through 5, but what I did, because I'm not very good at being able to like pick favorites, so I made five. I can't even count. Five aspects of each song, and the four I did was lyrics, melody, composition, uniqueness, and vocals. So, like, lyrics is the actual writing of the song, like the words themselves and
Like
the
the
meaning.
content and the meaning of the song.
Exactly. The melody
Okay.
is just how it sounds. So, like, if it's kind of catchy or if it's, just how the actual song musically sounds.
Right.
Composition is like structure, like how it's put together, how, complex it is. Uniqueness is
Okay.
how much it sounds, kind of like basically how like 21 Pilotsy it is, and if it doesn't just remind me of a bunch of other stuff.
Like uniqueness in the sense of originality and not mainstream, kind of.
Exactly. The last category I've got is vocals, and that's just like the actual like how good the singing sounded. Now I went a step above this and weighted these.
Wait.
Well, because different things are more important. So like I put the lyrics are just 10% of the score because it's 21 Pilots. The lyrics are 90% of the time are going to be written well, and have
Right.
thought put into them. It's not just going to be thrown out really quickly. Melody I did 25%, composition 30%, uniqueness 15, and vocals 20. All right. I went through each song, gave a number 1 through 5, and I've got the raw song average. So just like
Gosh.
where the song
You
ranked.
went deep.
I'm looking at a PDF I made on a spreadsheet. I'll send it to you. So I've got the raw song average, which is before the weighting. I mean, it's not necessary, but I wanted to have it. And then the weighted average. Then I've got like the overall album lyrics ranking, melody ranking, and the rest of the things. And then finally, like the weighted average for each song and the album total weighted average, and also the ranks off to the side.
Okay. So you basically took my rating system and made it much, much more detailed and specific.
This is a beautiful spreadsheet. I have to say, it's a
Oh,
beautiful spreadsheet.
I really want to see it.
I'll let you lead since this is your thought baby,
Oh, baby. All right.
your brain spawn.
So you talked about your rating system, and just for the sake of clarity for whoever is smart enough to listen to this, I did not go that in deep with my rating system. I basically just rated it as 1 is terrible, 2 is okay or decent, 3 is solid. Like if it's rated a 3, I think it's a good song. 4 is very good. 5 is perfect. Don't touch it. So we have the cold turkey reaction of the whole album, with no specifics or logic or reasoning behind it, just kind of like how I responded to it or how you responded to it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it. It sounds like 21 Pilots, but it also sounds really different at the same time. It exceeded my expectations. I had very high expectations and high standards going into this with how successful Blurryface was, and
Mm-hmm.
given the benefit of the doubt that I was so excited for this album that as soon as it hit 12 o'clock midnight last night, I was like, wonder if it's on Spotify. And as soon as it was, I listened to it. So maybe that 4 could be a little flawed, because any time past like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, my thoughts start to get flawed a little bit. And
You start saying some racist stuff that you don't really mean.
absolutely not. It's like when people say that it doesn't matter what's said after a certain point at night, everything becomes funny kind of deal. So like
Yeah.
my thought process and thinking and stuff like that is not on point. But I listened to it again today, not in one go. I listened to a couple songs when I was walking to class. I listened to a couple songs on my break. Like before I even went to go get dinner, I had listened to the whole album again. And I remember the text that you sent me this morning about like what songs you liked a lot, and none of the ones that you listed were ones that stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not taking away that I think the songs are bad. They're good songs. There's not one song on this album that I have listed below a 3. I think they're all 3s or higher. Let me check. Honestly, I think they're all at least a 3.5.
Dang.
No. There's nothing below a 3. All right.
Okay.
But anyway, I remember you sending that, and I was like, man, that's fine. And I remember you saying chlorine was good. And my first reaction to chlorine, which I'll get into later, this is cool, but I don't really know what it's like. I can't figure it out. Well, now I can't get it out of my head. I had to change my rating for that song. But yeah, this album definitely exceeded my expectations. But yeah, my cold turkey reaction was a 4 out of 5. I wasn't surprised.
I don't know what I don't know if I could put a number to it. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Like with Jumpsuit Nico and the Nighters being the first two singles, they both sounded a lot more not acoustic, but like Blurry Face compared to Vessels and the self-titled had a lot more computer sound effects
Right.
and electronic elements. So Jumpsuit starts out with like a really strong bass line, which is not typical of them. Nico and the Niners was a ukulele song. That's kind of like the tone I was expecting for the rest of it. Levitate threw that off a little bit when it came out, but I was thrown off a little bit at first just by the amount of more electronicness in this album compared to the other ones. I think there's more electronic effects. Like there's a lot more just taking a background track and taking out all of the treble and just having like a bass kind of thing going on rather than just it being him singing in the background.
Right. See, I don't want to use the word disagree because I don't think that that's the context of this conversation, the way it's going is the right word for it, but I kind of see it differently. I think Blurry Face was more electronic than this album. I might even go as far as saying that Vessel may have been a little bit more electronic than this album. I feel like a lot of inspiration behind the way the music was produced on this album came more from their self-titled album than anything. And I think a good example of this, if I can remember I think it's Smithereens. It's whenever one starts out the piano, it's either Smithereens or Neon Gravestones.
Neon Gravestones.
But when I heard that piano come out, and I was like, "Oh Lord, here comes self-titled again."
Another implicit demand for proof.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say that the self-titled album over the years has grown on to me, but it's still my least favorite album. I haven't completely grasped onto it yet. Now, you know that I hated that album for a while. Yeah. I could not stand it. I couldn't even put my finger on why I couldn't stand it. I don't know if it was because it just sounded so different from what I had normally been listening to, or if it sounded home produced. And I hate to even describe it that way because that sounds terrible. But
I mean, it was.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not as big as Blurry Face, and definitely I don't think it's going to be as big as this album's going to be. But it's a big label album, and it just sounded home produced. But we're not talking about that album. I'm just saying that I sense more self-titled inspiration in the music on this album than anything else. However, there are a lot of stuff and vibes from this that I think that they've grabbed from different artists, and I'll get into that in a minute. And it's probably from artists that either you haven't listened to or I'll give you, like, there was for Morph, my cold turkey reaction was like, I was laughing when I heard it, but not laughing in a sense that like, this is hysterically bad laughing. Like I was blown away of how well it sounded. Like I didn't believe it. I thought I was listening to a different artist, and the artist, I sent it to you and Sam, not Ed Sheeran, but the other one.
Mac Miller.
And yeah, Mac Miller. And I was just like, this is crazy. I don't know. It's different for me. It doesn't sound like Blurry Face. It doesn't sound like Vessel. I made a Facebook post today, which is rare because I don't make Facebook posts, but I was like, 21 Pilots is in a league of their own. Like, it's just like, no matter. Each album sounds different. Their self-titled album sounds like nothing else that's out there.
Yeah.
Vessel does not sound like they're self-titled at all. I'll even go as far as Regional at Best sounds like a happy medium between those two. Blurry Face sounded more mainstream than Vessel, but it wasn't mainstream because it didn't sound like nobody else. And then Trench sounds like nothing else that they've ever made. It's like they keep experimenting, but they know what to do to not fail.
Yeah.
Either that or they're just getting really lucky, which I don't think that's the case because I don't know. I guess you could just see it in their personalities. That's just like, I mean, I could be way wrong on this. I don't think they care what makes the most money. I mean, they've become such a big band that I don't think the money matters anymore to them. And I think I'm going to speak on the band as a whole rather than Tyler, given I know that Tyler is the one that writes all the lyrics, but I'm just going to use the band as a whole. I don't think that their intent is to make money. Their intent is for Tyler at least, to use this medium of art to help him get through whatever it is he's getting through, and at the same time it helps the people that listens to it get through whatever they're listening to. That's why I like My Blood so much. I refused to listen to My Blood until the album come out because I didn't want to get spoiled with it, which is another soapbox for another day. But when I first heard, I knew there was a bunch of hype around it because I used to follow the subreddit. And that's all people talked about. Other than Neon Gravestones, people were expecting that to be like the best song on the album, which I'll get into that later. They were hyping up My Blood. There was a lot of people making artwork about it, saying how relatable it is. I'm like, I'm trying to shun myself from it. I don't want any spoilers. And then when I listened to it, I was like, if this isn't an accurate representation of how I feel right now, where I'm at in life, I don't know what is. So that's why I feel like they can experiment with their sound, but know where the limit is from just completely sounding like trash, Eric Church, and knowing how to still sound good with it. I'm going to probably be trashing Eric Church a lot in this just for the sake of they both released albums today. Eric Church and 21 Pilots have been back and forth competing for my favorite artist for years.
Eric dropped the ball today.
Yeah, he's dropping off the list currently for me, especially the last two albums. But this is not about him. This is about 21 Pilots. I just need to get that out of my system.
I hadn't even got to the first song yet.
Yeah, I know. I need to shut up. But we're gonna stop talking about that now. So you give me your rating for Jumpsuit and why you rated that. And I have a feeling that's going to take you a while because you have that scientific Excel spreadsheet of why you did what.
All right, I've got the Jumpsuit was I gave it a 4.2, and that's weighted. And that's mostly because it's got a 5 in uniqueness, just because it's like, for one, it stands out in the album itself as being its own thing, and it doesn't sound like anything else.
Right.
It's pretty much high across the board. The lowest thing it's got is it's got a 3 in lyrics. But melody's 4.5, composition 4, vocals 4. I don't know. I really like it.
4.2. All right. I gave it a 4. The songs that were released, minus My Blood, because I sheltered myself from that song.
You abstained.
But Jumpsuit, Levitate, and Nico and the Niners are, I want to say they're going to be cold turkey reactions for me, but there's a little bit of growth rating to it since it's been out for a while. And I think that that's reasonable, being that anyone that has kept up with 21 Pilots has probably heard it. I mean, I gave Jumpsuit a 4. I remember my cold turkey reaction to Jumpsuit I would have given it like a 4.5 or a 5. Just because it sounded rock to me. It sounded alternative heavy rock and roll, and that is not 21 Pilots. And that kind of goes back to what I said about how I feel like they can experiment with stuff but know their limit and know what sounds good and what sounds terrible. And Jumpsuit, to me, sounds like nothing else they've ever done, yet it still sounds like 21 Pilots. And it just kicked my tail, mostly because of the bass line. I can't give another song off the top of my head that has a bass line not only that is that catchy, but isn't so catchy that it's annoying and it's in your face. And then the screaming in it, there's not, other than the ending where he screams, chops, to end the song. It's like not screamo, but it's not growling and it's not yelling. I don't know how to describe it. It just sounded perfect. Like there's everything about that song other than the lyrics that I haven't quite figured out yet. I have a feeling this song, along with a handful of others, are going to be songs lyrically that I won't have figured out or have not affected me personally until like maybe a couple months down the road.
Yeah, which is usual for them. They're
But
very
yeah, that usually
take some
happens
decoding.
because his lyrics are so deep that it can be interpreted in so many ways, and because of that, it's not like a dead obvious meaning right off the bat. Other than My Blood, I felt like to me, My Blood was obvious for me personally, but I gave it a 4. I have a feeling that it's probably going to stay a 4
Yeah.
for a while. Which I should have said this before we even started. Since we're doing like cold turkey reviews now, I think that it would be cool if like 6 months from now and a year from now, like come back and revisit it.
I'll make another spreadsheet.
Yeah, make another spreadsheet. I might even make a spreadsheet because I didn't think of that. But like kind of like see if it's changed for us. Like see if the album is still the same or if we think it's better than like if it's grown on us. I think that would be interesting. But anyway,
I agree with you about the bass line, though. The only other song I can think that has that strong of a bass line is Psycho by Muse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there's another one I just thought of. The song they always play at every football game ever, the introduction to Seven Nation Army.
Oh, yeah.
Like that one, I don't really consider that in your face, but it's very memorable and very iconic. And it's kind of perfect to a point.
Yeah.
In its own respect. Like
it just works.
Me, this bass line is perfect in its own respect. Like they're two different kinds of perfect. All right. So
I gave it a 4.2 and you gave it a 4.
I gave it a 4. So Levitate, I'm a little biased towards Levitate only because I hated this song at first. So like I want to say my cold turkey to this song was like a 2. And that was only because like Jumpsuit, it was so different to me compared to what they normally do. Not rap wise in the pace, because like I still think Heavy Dirty Soul was the fastest rap song other than Rap God by Eminem. And Heavy Dirty Soul was probably the fastest rap song I've ever heard. And Levitate kind of was that way, but that's not why I disliked it. I disliked it because it sounded so different than what I normally hear from them. And I disliked Doubt and Polarize off of Blurryface and still do because of that. Like they sounded too mainstream. They sounded like a song that Drake would release or somebody like that.
That was my first reaction to Doubt when the first time I heard it. I was like, this
and
is very
I still dislike those two songs, and that's why I dislike Levitate. But the more that I listen to Levitate, there's no N in that word. The more I listen to Levitate, God, I still said Levitate. I'm just going to stop saying the title of the song to save myself from embarrassment.
First time I listened to Floating.
The more I listened to it, the more I liked it. And I don't know if it's because the music reminded me of another era that I like, or if it's just that I just grew onto it, but I liked it. And now, I mean, I rate it 5 now. Just, I don't know. It's my favorite song on the album other than the next two and Chlorine. I don't know. I don't even know what it means. It's just cool.
So the raw song average, the unweighted ranking I gave Levitate was a 2. The weighted 1.7. It is my least. It is number 14. And the thing is, the writing is good. Like me and Sam looked up the lyrics. It's very well written. But I think it got a 1 on melody and a 1 on composition for me because like it's so one note the entire time, which is something I prefer more.
It's kind of monotone.
Exactly. I prefer more complicated songs, which is why I like Nothing More a lot.
Okay.
If you just start listening to one of their songs at any point, if you don't know them well enough, you're not going to be able to tell which song's which because different parts sound so different. Which I know
Right.
that's a personal taste thing. Some people want to have like a smooth structure. And Melody also have a one just because it's like his brother's rapid kitchen sink is just like bubbada 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 bubbada.
Okay.
Uniqueness and vocals are 2 and 2 for similar reasons.
Do you think that you would like it more? Felt like there was more of a chorus involved.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
But to me, it feels like a transition song to me. One, because it kind of comes in, it fades in from Jumpsuit. I feel like it should go somewhere because it's not long. It's that kind of just, like I said, it's kind of monotone. So to me, it sounds like it should be transitioning into Morph, but it doesn't. It just ends and then Morph begins. If it transitioned, I'd probably appreciate it a lot more.
Right. I specifically remember your actual cold turkey reaction to this song because I had heard it before you did, and one of you had asked me how I felt, and I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's got this weird vibe to it, but it'll probably grow onto me, which it definitely has. But I remember your reaction was exactly what you just said. It was just like, it's but it sounds like a transition song.
Mhm.
And I agreed. So whatever I had. First of all, I'm just going to go ahead and say that I really appreciate how Jumpsuit transitions into this song.
Yeah, it's a good transition.
I was not expecting that, mostly because after you had made the comment, maybe this transitions into the next song, I was like, well, now I'm looking forward to it. So then when I listened to the album, I was like waiting. I was like anticipating for that transition, and it was kind of disappointed to hear that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I distinctly remember when I heard the transition from Jumpsuit to Levitate, I was about to send you and Sam a text and was like, you have to listen to this album in order, because I was thinking, all right, so since they transitioned into Levitate, if Levitate transitions into Morph, then I feel like this is going to be like an American Idiot version of 21 Pilots, which I'm not a big Green Day fan, but I'm a big fan of American Idiot just because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You could listen to each song as its own, but it's more appreciated if you listen to it in order, or at least listen to the songs that are transitioned into each other.
That's generally how I listen to albums.
And then when it didn't transition, I was like, well, I might as well hold off on that. And I did. So I was a little disappointed, but that still does not detract from my rating of this song, because I'm rating the song and not the transitions.
Yeah, I got it. Most of it was just the composition, because I could get over it being more rappy than other songs, because they've got other songs that are more rappy that I've grown onto. But if you compare this song, which is like barely 2 minutes long, to something like Ode to Sleep, which is, to me, that'd have like a 6 in composition. That would go off the scale, just because of like the range of tones it goes. Yeah, I love that.
It's like if Queen did a 21 Pilots song. If 21 Pilots had a Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's like they're so all over the place, but it's not so all over the place that it doesn't flow together. It's kind of theatrical in a way.
Exactly. That I love, like long ballads and long songs like that have that. It's almost like it's telling a story. It's got different moods and tones. That I just love that in songs. And I was really disappointed in Levitate, because pretty much all their songs have some element of like a change of tone or mood. And Levitate, I just kept waiting for it to change, which, I mean, that's why my first words were, this has to be a transition. There's no way this is just by itself a final product.
Okay. Well, I guess we're on two ends of the spectrum.
That's your number one. On number 14.
That's my number one. I will say that is the only. Well, no, there isn't. I also say that's the only song that I rated a 5. There's another one that's a 5, but it's not Morph.
Okay, so Morph. I gave it a 3.5. It was the first new song or like album release group song that I heard, because I did listen to it straight through, and at first, just because you listen to more like other rap. I mean, this 21 Pilots is literally the only rap I receive in my ear holes. And for you, when you heard it, you were like, this sounds like Mac Miller. But to me, I'm not used to that sound. And to me, it kind of has like almost like an LA kind of San Andreas feel. Because just like that kind
of like a 90s hip hop vibe.
Yeah.
I got that too.
And that first little, that whenever the first time he says, "We're hounded, we're surrounded," like when I first heard, like it kind of sticks in my head now, but the first time I heard it, it was a total turnoff. How he ends those words, it's like surrounded. Like it's like, what are you doing?
I mean, yeah, I think it's safe to say between the both of us that he's got a very unique sound or
Oh
very
yeah,
unique way of approaching his vocals. So, like, I'm not saying you are doing this, but I think it would be unjustifiable and wrong for someone to criticize the way he sings it because it's not common for someone to sing that way.
it just my like when I first heard it, it just sounded like an off note.
I'm going to interject with that when you're talking about how he enters. I kind of get the sense that this is kind of the same opinion you had when you first started listening to Pilots of what irritated you, mostly in car radio. Probably sounded like he was whining.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's ending it the same way as he does in car radio, but like I'm hearing this from 2 years ago too.
yeah,
And
it's
you
similar.
love that song now. So,
What, car radio?
well, I'm thinking you like it.
No, it's still low. I can tolerate it now, but it's still down there. I still hold the ground that it sounds like slam poetry, but I have gotten over a lot. I've gotten over a lot of like
poetry.
I meant to say spoken word, not slam. But that's what levitate is. Levitate slam poetry. But friggin' yeah, the whining I've kind of gotten over. I still have a hard time listening to March to the Sea. I like that song, but I have a hard time listening to it.
I have a hard time listening to half that album.
I've listened to more, and I do like it. I mean, it does have a 3.5. It just when I first heard that, it kind of threw me off. Which that's the same thing that happened with crap. What's that Five Finger Death Punch song? It's off of American Capitalist. The real it's really catchy. Freaking oh my gosh, I'm gonna hate myself when I see it. I'm gonna hate myself.
Generation Dead?
No, American. Freaking The Pride. That's what it is. Whenever I first heard that song, there's a part where he says, "We're not turning down. We're buying it." That's it. We're not selling. When he says we're not selling out, that when I first heard that was like it irritated me. We're not selling out. Like it sounded like somebody turned the power off and it started like. But
okay.
After hearing it, it got stuck in my head over and over again. I had to go back and listen to it. Now it's one of my favorite songs from by then.
I got burned out of that song, but that's not really the topic. Have I talked? Oh, I haven't talked about mine. Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, I gave it a 4.5. It was originally a 5, but I took a half point off just
generous. It's 5s.
When I first heard it, I laughed. And I know I'd already said this, but I laughed because I was impressed that they actually could pull off that sound. I thought that as well as My Blood and The Hype and another song that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, they all have this 90s hip hop vibe. Mm-hmm. Not like a Run DMC 90s hip hop, but like a NWA or Biggie or Tupac or somebody like that. They have that 90s hip hop music vibe. And that's my if all rap sounded like that now, I would like rap more. Because to me, I don't dislike rap because of the lyrics mostly. It's more of the music. It all sounds recycled to me.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have really good lyrics like NF, that's just like real, I appreciate it and I can get over the music part. But this album gave me, as a whole, like a 90s hip hop vibe. I'm a fan of that, and I was impressed that they did it. I can't give a specific reason why I took it to a 4.5 away from a 5. I guess it's just because I started to get more critical with how I rated stuff. And I was like, yeah, this is still lacking something to be a 5. You
can't have a whole list of 5s.
No. My Blood, I changed it to a 5, which I'm getting ahead of myself. But I remember when I first heard this, I was like, this sounds exactly like Mac Miller. I didn't ever listen to Mac Miller. I didn't ever care to listen to Mac Miller until after he died. And I know that sounds kind of bad, but he died. And I was like, well, I'm going to give him a listen because like there's people that I'm friends with up here that's like me and you when it comes to music. They have always suggested for me to listen to Matt Miller. And I was like, well, I don't really particularly like rap. There's only one technical rap artist that I like, and the other one's kind of alternative that just raps. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, trust me, if you like 21 Pilots, you like Matt Miller. And I was like, well, all right, I'll give him a listen. Well, I didn't until after he died. And then he died, and I listened to his music, and it has, I don't want to say like a 90s hip hop vibe, but it's got that it's different. It's kind of like an easygoing vibe. And when I heard this song, I was like, man, if he was alive, I wonder if they would even have considered doing a collaboration with him, or if they would consider doing it. But then I don't listen to Ed Sheeran a lot. Honestly, I've only listened to like 3 of his songs, but this song, the music sounds similar to kind of what he has, or at least the way that I see it. That's why I'd kind of mentioned it'd be a unique collaboration between the two. And not only that, it would be a really good business move.
Which that kind of sells your point that they're not in for the money too. Is that they have? I don't think they've ever done a collab.
No, they haven't. The only collaboration they ever did was before they got famous, and that was in Kitchen Sink.
I appreciate, and that was his brother.
That was his brother.
Yeah. I appreciate not seeing featured on half the songs in the album. But that really annoys me. Like I want to listen to this artist.
Yeah, like I'm okay with saying like 1 or 2. What was I saying? Oh, but I know that they probably won't do it because I think I remember seeing an interview with Tyler that somebody had asked him if they had ever considered doing a collaboration with somebody. I think Eminem was like on like a question of topic, which I don't think that would be a good collaboration just because they're 2 very different concepts and messages, and 2 very different generations of approaching music. But anyway, and I think I remember him saying something, yeah, it would be cool, but we're just not. I think he said that they're not interested right now in doing a collaboration. Now, that was like 2 years ago. So things could have changed. But I think it would be nice to see them do a collaboration, but I think it would be nicer if the collaboration was not a 21 Pilots song, if that makes sense. So it wouldn't be like, the song would sound like a 21 Pilots song, but it would not be their song. It would be like Joe Schmo featuring 21 Pilots rather than 21 Pilots featuring Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
I think that they might go that route. That's a large leap, which we're getting away from the song. But I gave it a 4.5. I really like it, especially the chorus. I think I figured a little bit of it out. A lot of this stuff, I'm going to have to look up the lyrics to the songs because this album has already been, we've already stated this album is different. But it's also different in the sense that it's hard for me to distinguish what he's actually saying, like as far as clarity goes. Like there's sometimes I don't know what he says.
That's new for this album. He's normally very clear with his vocals. And that's kind of what I was talking about with more of the effects, is that it's harder to understand him. And all the other albums, even in Blurryface, where sometimes it was pitch shifted, you could still, he was enunciating everything a lot more. This one sounds, honestly, it kind of gave me the same vibe that Miles Kennedy's solo album does. And then that also kind of bled into Slash's new album, is that it sounds more relaxed. But in Miles Kennedy's case, it's not so much of a good thing. You know, like,
I feel like artists, higher pitched voice, it's almost like you expect it to be clear. And when it's not, you're like, all right, he's not giving it 100% or something.
Exactly. And I've noticed this with several artists, is like their initial stuff, they're like, everything's really like made to be perfect. Even if it's not, they try and get it perfect. And then they reach a point where they're like, you know, I've made it, or I've reached some level of success or proficiency at this art. I can just express myself now, and the quality kind of
drops.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily, because I mean they're still good artists. Like these are all still good songs, but you can tell a difference in how much like he's putting into the vocals from this one and say Vessels.
Yeah. I think that in this case, though, with 21 Pilots, I don't think it takes away from them at all, because
no, I mean, we're nitpicking.
I expect it from 21 Pilots rather than another band, because the way the vocals, to me, even though obviously, like you said, it was clear on Vessel and somewhat more less clear. On Blurry Face, yet it was still clear. He always has that like really moody, dramatic approach to how he vocalizes his songs. So I think that it does drop off on this album, but it doesn't take away from it either. It's just hard to distinguish what he's saying sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Neon Greystones, like I really want to say this opinion for them, but I'm afraid I won't forget by the time we get to it. But like Neon Greystones, the biggest complaint that I have about it is that a lot of the song, I don't know what he's saying.
Mm.
All right. So, all right, I gave My Blood a 5. It originally was a 4. I bumped it up to a 5 because of how personal it hit me. I remember when I was laying in my bed last night listening to it, it was like, bam. It was like it hit me right in the face. I'm like, I felt like it was written for me. And I gave it a 4. And then when I was eating lunch today, I heard it again. Somebody put it on the jukebox of all places. And I don't know. I thought that was strange because, like, I was eating at Waffle House, so that's why it was strange to me. So, like, I was sitting there I was sitting at the bar at Waffle House eating, and it just somebody put it on, and I was like, all right, I know that 21 Pilots is popular, but
they're not Waffle House popular.
Yeah, I'm like, this is weird to me. And then I started listening to it more, and the more I listened to it, the more personal it got for me. That's why I gave it a 5.
It's got a 3 for me, and the reason is I like the song, but kind of on the same vein as Levitate. Like I feel like I wanted it to go more places. Like I gave the lyrics on this one a 1, just because like we are really polar opposites. I didn't really get any
was the deepest songs on the whole album.
I didn't get any like meaning jumping out at me, and a lot of the lyrics were repeated, which isn't always a bad thing. I mean, good lord, there's some Alter Bridge songs and a ton of classic rock songs, especially like Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses definitely have a lot of just like, you're like, come on guys, think of some more lyrics.
Yeah.
But like this one, I was hoping it would kind of go a little more. So it's got like a 1 on lyrics, 2 on composition, just because it was a lot of repetition. Melody 4.5. It's by far not counting Jumpsuit, because I think Jumpsuit is kind of like a 21 Pilots fan. Like that one's only really applies to pre-existing fans. You know, I don't feel like Jumpsuit's going to grab any new listeners.
Oh no, because it sounds so different.
Exactly, and
the new listeners will listen to it and like it and hate everything else.
Yeah, it's dramatic. Jumpsuit is dramatic for new listeners because they've been gone so long. It comes in with that kind of that slow build and then a heavy hit. It's just like, yeah, but My Blood is definitely, I think My Blood will be the highest radio hit of the album, just because it's really catchy, and this is where it being kind of repetitive kind of helps it out as far as getting it on the radio. I mean, the vocals are great in it, but as far as it actually being I don't see a lot of content there, but that's personal. So it's a 3 for me.
I think I'll agree with you on that, even though I still rate it a 5, and that's only because of how personal it affected me. If it didn't affect me personally, I think I would have rated it a 4 at first, and then probably took it down to like a 3.5. Only because, meaning aside, I personally like Morph better than My Blood, but My Blood is so personal to me. But I do agree with you on the fact that I think My Blood is probably going to be the most radio friendly, just because of how clean and easygoing, and no matter what kind of mood you're in, it's just going to put you in a better mood. Even though the lyrics could seem dark to some people, the music is just so happy and uplifting, kind of like House of Gold. Like I think House of Gold has a really dark meaning to me.
Oh yeah,
but it's such an upbeat vibe.
Not Today's the same way. I mean, he says it in the song.
Yeah, I enjoy juxtaposition in music like that. Yeah, I just used a big word that I learned in art school, but like I love juxtaposition in songs like that. Like there's a song by Hollywood Undead. I know that they're so middle school to me, and they still kind of are. I don't enjoy them much anymore, but there's a song called Bullet off of their second album that I can't stand because of what the lyrics say. It's pretty self-explanatory, and I'm not going to go into detail, but it is extremely dark to the point that I can't listen to it. But it's got one of the most upbeat and happy sounding music in all of music that I've ever heard. And that's why it's so popular, even though it's such a terrible song.
Yeah. I feel like that's a way for artists to get away with saying more darker, not necessarily dark. I'll just say like more personal things because people are going to get scared by a really moody, sad song that's talking about a really moody, sad topic. But if it's just really catchy and they can sing along to it in the car, they're going to and not even think about the lyrics.
Yeah.
All right, Smithereens. Sorry, Chlorine. I skipped. Sorry. I gave Chlorine a 4.3. It's my number 2.
Okay.
I really like Chlorine. It's got, I don't know, it's got a very unique to me, it's got the kind of feel to it that there's something appealing to me about a song that's like, it doesn't always work, and this is going to sound silly, but if it's just like a noun, if it's like a thing, like chlorine, it's an idea, it's a substance, it's a thing. And then like the song, the effects that are used in it kind of emulate the things that are associated with. So like he says chemical a lot, you think of kind of just like industrial sort of, I don't know. It just
like toxic.
Yes. As far as this one has a 5 on composition, just because all the tones, the lyrics, the music, the effects all fit together, like for me, perfectly, and I like it.
Okay, we have very close ratings. Like if I'm gonna round your number up or down,
this is the first time.
Yeah, no, you gave Jumpsuit a 4.2, and I gave it.
Oh, that's 4. True. I forgot about Jumpsuit. Doesn't count. Jumpsuit's universally
Chlorine
good.
So far, the only 2 songs we've kind of seen eye to eye on. I gave it a 4. I kind of stated earlier that I didn't particularly like it. I liked it, but I didn't particularly like it, and then it just grew on me. Like really, really quick. It took a second listen for me to give it a 4. Like, it didn't take much. And I don't know if it's because of how I was listening to it. Like the first time I heard all of these songs, I was laying in my bed. I didn't have headphones on. I was just playing it through the speaker on my phone, which is probably not a good idea. The second time,
I at least had my headphones on.
The second time I listened to them, I had my headphones on, so it had a little bit of a different effect. Chlorine quickly, without a doubt, went to a 4 from whatever I would have rated it before. Subject matter, I have no idea what this song's talking about. And for all I know, this could just be an abstract piece and not mean anything. And it's just an idea thrown out there. Hey, let's sing about chlorine and try to make the music sound like what we think chlorine would sound like if it could talk or something like that. And that's kind of how I viewed it. I viewed it as like if you could take a painting on a canvas and use chlorine as the medium, like paint chlorine on it and then make it talk or put it into a song, this is it. And it's so catchy. But again, it's not catchy to the point that it's annoying.
Exactly. It's not like pathologically or pathogenically catchy where it's annoying. Like there are songs out there that are, I can't think of one off the top of my head because I make an effort to purge them from my memory.
I'm about to put one in there.
Oh God, there are songs out there that are like that I don't like, that are in genres I don't like. They're not singing about stuff I like, and I don't like how they're singing it. But the hook, the actual music is catchy, and it gets stuck in my head, and I don't like it. I feel like they're intruding on my personal space by getting this song stuck in my head. Like, how dare you? I don't want that in my head. And
you're popping my bubble.
Exactly, and like Chlorine is catchy in the not that way, you know?
Yeah. It's not like Carly Rae Jepsen's Call You Maybe, where that's just an asinine of a song.
That's a good example.
That's the first song. Every time somebody asks me, which is never, about a song that is annoying, catchy, but annoying, that's the first song I think of is, hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. Okay, I'm regretting doing that.
A lot of songs that become memes are that way. Like, they're catchy and they're popular because of the fact they're catchy.
They get famous for the wrong reasons. All right.
Smithereens.
That was a quick one. All right, so we're going to talk about Tearing My Heart. Oh, wait, no, we're talking about Smithereens.
That's on the wrong album, brother.
Yeah, but this to me to me, Smithereens, I liked it. To me, it's a love story or a love note or whatever. It's the Tearing My Heart of this album.
Mm-hmm. I give it a 2.2. It is the second lowest on my list. And the thing is, I'll tell you why. Lyrically, I love it. Like,
okay, I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, it's one of the best written songs. The idea is really cute. Like, I like the use of it is like Look, Sam has got me. Since dating Sam, I have started referring to things as cute. I feel like she's slowly stealing my masculinity, but I'm not too mad. But like, I like the use of the word smithereens.
So you still have more masculinity than I do. I'm in art school. I have no masculinity.
Sometimes I feel like you have more than me because physics just busts my balls. But smithereens. The song, I like the use of the word smithereens and everything. Like, it's really, the writing's fantastic, but to me, how he sings it like that, I don't know the actual term. I think it's alto. I don't know the fancy word for it, how he's singing it. To me, it gives me the vibe of being out of his range, just because I have to sing, like, in songs that I do that I for some reason decide to write out of my range. That's what I have to do. Like, it's just like there's a point you pass in your voice where you're not, like, it's not your clear voice anymore. Like, that's still my clear voice.
Yeah.
But like, is, I don't know. It just, the songs that have that in it kind of rub me the wrong way, just because to me that's like a red flag. Like, oh, you can't do this.
Right. I think that in this case he kind of plays it, or not plays it. He kind of, well, I guess he plays it off in a way that it sounds like he can pull it off. But I get what you're saying.
He can do it. However, I'm not saying he can't.
However, I'm just going to throw this in there. I was talking about Eric Church and how I don't like his new album. There is a song on his album that is like that the whole way through. I skipped it within the first minute and a half because I was like, how, with his status, does he feel like, and I'll send you the name of the song so you can clearly understand where I'm going, like how it sounds. I was like, how, with his popularity and his intelligence, does he feel like this should be on the album? Because it's clearly out of his range. And I was cringing in my bed. I was like, oh, this sounds like an American Idol audition. Like, this is terrible.
That's going to be the name of my first LP, Caleb, was cringing in my bed. Cringing in my bed.
I like it. All right. I gave it a 3.5.
The second track is I drooled on my pillow. Sorry.
I gave it a 3.5. I'm kind of, my opinions are kind of the same as yours, but they're not as critical. I love the lyrics. I mean, I'm not one to say that I'm 100% always a sucker for ballads and sappy love songs, because I'm not. But this song is a good one. I like this song a lot. It's the same reason why "Tearing My Heart" is probably my favorite song off of Blurry Face. The music just, I think it fits it. I think it fits the mood of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it was particularly executed in the way that it maybe should have been. I'm ignorant. I have no prior or current experience producing music, so I'm just an ignoramus.
Oh, I don't either, dude.
I'm an ignoramus.
I really don't either.
But I feel like, as a listener, I could say that it just, something seemed a little off with the music in comparison to the lyrics. But I still think the music was good. That's why I gave it 3.5. Oh, yeah. Like, that's like 3 is a solid song. 3.5 is, to me, is almost a 4, even though it's halfway. Like, I liked it a lot.
I feel like this was a good example of how pretty much the first time you listen to a 21 Pilots album, it's like a mystery because their titles are so out there, which I like. I like that. I like not being able to just immediately, being something really, just, it's clearly just they picked out a lyric that they say a lot. So it's interesting to try and figure out where it comes in at, which My Blood, when I first listened to that one, was a good example. I was like, when is it? Is he going to say it? Or is he say, oh, there he said it.
But I'm going to end part 1 here. I don't know when I'm going to upload part 2. I'm not even sure when I'm going to upload this one, just because I know how I am with making thumbnails, and heck, I might just get you to make my thumbnail. I don't know. I have to think of something.
I like making thumbnails.
I might just tell you what I have in mind and see how well you execute it. I'll be the client, you be the graphic designer. How's that?
Are we doing a role reversal, Kale? I didn't know you were into that.
I don't know. That's part 1.
We'll see you guys in the next part where we could finish nerding out over the rest of this album.
We'll pick up all the hype and then conclude.